The Full Melt Show is intended for a mature audience. It contains adult themes, adult content, and sometimes adult language. Listener discretion is advised.
It's the Full Melt Show.
Oh, surprise!
Are you high? What are you talking about?
It's the Full Melt.
The Full Melt Show. A marijuana discussion about news, culture, politics, and lifestyle. FullMelt.com. Toll free. 844-420-TALK. 844-420-TALK.
I just want to know one thing. I really just want to know one thing. I wasn't able to get up to the stupid trial up there in Gaylord today. It's a stupid trial, too. I mean, it's an important one, but it's really a stupid one. All these cannabis trials are stupid trials. Yesterday we had Josh Covert. He's the attorney for Alan Witt, who is currently on trial for a couple of felonies been charged with up in the Gaylord area. You know, Gaylord did a run on dispensaries not too long ago. I mean, they went down and they hit a whole bunch of them, closed a whole bunch of different places. And, you know, there's been some political action there. I really wish I knew some more people from Gaylord because they could perhaps give me a better idea about. I haven't been up to Gaylord for probably 20 years now. I mean, I think I stopped there on the way to the Mackinac Bridge. When we do our annual Mackinac Bridge walk. By the way, if you haven't ever done that, go up there. We always do it every Labor Day weekend. So go up there and walk the bridge. But that's the last time I've been in Gaylord, and it was just a brief stop, probably in a bathroom at one of the local gas stations or something right off the expressways. I didn't get a chance to go down towards actual proper Gaylord downtown. I think there's a new little business district that's opened up by the expressway there, but I haven't been down there. And so all of the people that I might know in the Gaylord area have long since moved on or are no longer there. And I haven't had a chance really to make a lot of connection with people up in the Gaylord area. So I'm remiss about that. But the one thing that I want to know is how this whole trial thing went today. Now, yesterday we had Josh Covert on, who said he wouldn't mind coming back on and, kind of updating us as things went along. But he just got out of the courtroom, he said, and he does not have the time to give us a rundown on what happened up there in Gaylord. So maybe we can just get Jamie on the phone to talk about that, just for a brief minute to get it out of the way, because I did not want to spend the whole day talking about that again, although, like I said, for us here in Michigan, that's all eyes were on that issue, first off, because of the Section 8 defense thing, because that's still going down in flames under certain judges. And it bugs me, too, because the Supreme Court has given attorneys and judges a clear pathway to Section 8 defenses at trial. And for once, I suppose I'd just like to see the actual defense make it to the trier of fact instead of getting shot down in a procedural hearing outside of the jury's earshot ahead of time. Because, in my opinion, the facts are the facts. And even if these people were attempting, let's just say and this has nothing to do with this case in particular. I'm just making a point about the jury being able to hear your medical marijuana defense. If indeed the court's seeking the truth, an unbiased truth, then they must let all of this kind of evidence in. The idea that these people were raided at a dispensary setting, that this wasn't just some, house that was growing some weed somewhere, or that, these weren't just drug dealers hanging out on the street. There should be some allowance to let the truth be known. And the truth is that the police came into with an undercover informant who was never revealed, according to Josh Covert yesterday on this program. It was never revealed to them who that undercover informant was. An anonymous tipster, it's not. This is an undercover informant, a UI. These are people that usually wear wires, or they have, they have money that's already been recorded in way of serial number. I mean, there's some detailed recording that's happening of the events transpiring around said transaction or transactions. And if indeed this is the auspice under which the police went into these places, it's my understanding, and I'll be corrected by anybody who says otherwise, because I don't know. All I can do is tell you what I understand about this thus far, according to other media reports. And that's that, at the time that at least this location, and I believe all other locations were like this too, when they did these raids, had an undercover informant come in with a valid, by the way, medical marijuana card. This person was a patient registered to the state, again, as it's my understanding. And using that card, purchased 4.5 grams of cannabis. Now, the technical problem with this issue, according to Michigan law, is that you're not a registered caregiver for the person that came in there. So you're not technically, according to Section 4 of the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act, you're not allowed to, as a carded, the guy's got a card. I'm assuming that you as a bud tender have a card. And that it doesn't matter if you're a registered caregiver to other people or not. The law says that you should be allowed, the Medical Marijuana Act, I believe, gives you the allowance to transfer cannabis to another cannabis patient acting temporarily as their caregiver, as a provider. It has nothing to do with the card and the registry and the protection against arrest and prosecution. It has nothing to do with any of that. Just has to do with the fact that you're allowed to say to a jury at the end of the day that I had some permission here, that we were acting medically, that this was the intent. We're not trying to just do some crazy backyard drug deal. It's not what's going on here. There's a whole other set of rules in place here, and this is information that should be, I think, accessible by the jury in an open way. How could you say that you had an undercover person go into a location and omit the fact that the location was a medical marijuana dispensary? That's exactly, I believe, what's going on here in this trial, and it happens many times every day, I think, in this state. In some municipality or some city, some township, this is what's happening in their courts. It can't be allowed to persist, and we've got this figured out for quite some time on how we're going to respond back to this politically. And it's my belief wholly that MI and take the ability for police and prosecutors to do this kind of crap completely away from them. If you want to chime in about this or any subject we're talking about on the show tonight, it's toll-free and open phone lines, 844-420-TALK. 844-420-TALK. I am going to call Jamie real quick and see if we can't just button him in here. I hate doing this dialing thing on the air, though. It really kind of sucks. But let's just see if we can. And then I know Jamie knows somebody that was there today that might be able to, add something into this. Give us some kind of flavor about what happened there today. And generally, I think any particular person in the audience, and mind you, the people that we know in that audience do have a bias. They came there to support Alan, and I imagine his defense attorney. They came there to support that defense. And if moral support, if nothing else. Hey, we're here, we're behind you, we believe in you. That says a lot. It makes you feel a lot better sitting on the other side of that chair, or sitting in the chair that the defendant's got to sit in a criminal proceeding in a court in the state of Michigan. I've sat in both the jury box, I've sat in the defendant's chair, and I've sat in the audience as a plaintiff, and I've also sat in the audience as a victim of a crime. I've been there in all those places. I've also been in the courtroom as a reporter with, all the documentation that allows you to be there doing that. These courtrooms are kind of they're a mechanism, right? There's a process and an order. There's an input and an output, and there's stuff that happens in the middle of the input and the output that grinds one into the other. And it's my position and contention that mechanism is no longer functioning properly. It's been toyed with, kicked, it's old, it's rusty. And the people that have to operate that mechanism on a regular basis, and I'm talking about all the court personnel involved in grinding a criminal case through the system, or even a civil case, have got the workings of this mechanism figured out good enough. They understand it and what makes it tick in such a ways that they're able to manipulate it beyond its intended purpose. And what I mean by that is that they can take this mechanism called the court system and kick it and prod it and poke it and tweak it to get it to put out whatever it needs at the time. And the goal of a prosecutor and police is to achieve convictions. It's not the number of court cases that are there. It's not the type of cases that are there. It's convictions. And ones that preferably cost the county and the state and the city and the municipality or the police department as little as possible to achieve. That's the goal of a prosecutor. That's the political goal, at least, of a prosecutor. It shouldn't be. It should be the goal of the prosecutor to reach the truth, whatever that is. And if that means that the person that you're accusing of a crime doesn't get convicted, then that's what that means. You're part of a process that makes an accusation against an individual. That's the police's job. That's the job of the police, to go make the accusation. Hey, this is what we found. We busted these people doing this. Now it's the job of the prosecutor to prove that. And I say when the prosecutor goes to the extent of bending and twisting the mechanism through which the case goes to get the outcome he needs, and is so defocused by that he's lost fact of the idea, or lost track of the idea, that originally he's there to seek the truth. That's what the purpose of the court is to do, to seek the truth. Our political system is broken, and we'll talk about Trump and pot coming up next.
You're getting the full melt.
When you need legal help, you don't want to guess at who's standing next to you in court. And when it comes to a medical marijuana defense, it's even smarter to partner with a lawyer before you need one. Based in Royal Oak, David Rudoy has a proven history of not being afraid to take your case all the way to the Supreme Court and win. Find the law offices of Rudoy Law
at RudoyLaw.com.
RudoyLaw.com is a quick reference on your rights concerning Michigan medical marijuana
and up-to-date news.
That's RUDOI Law.com. Call 248-935-9074 now and talk about your legal needs, because at RudoyLaw.com, we don't just stand up for you, we stand up with you.
RootMetrics, in the nation's largest independent study, tested wireless performance across the country. Verizon won big with 153 state wins. AT&T got 38, Sprint got 2, and T-Mobile got 0. Verizon also won first in the U.S. for data, call, speed, and reliability. AT&T got text. Stuck on an average network? Join Verizon, and we'll cover your cost to switch.
It's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience, bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Door Highway, or call 810-259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571.
What's up with these things, Victor?
We decided to give ourselves stickers for each feature we release.
We read about 10,000 suggestions a week to create features that, as traders, we'd want to use.
10,000 suggestions? Who reads all of those?
He does.
For all the confidence you need, TD Ameritrade, you got this. Got something to hide? Canna-Lock offers discreet and effective storage solutions that destroy odor, so nobody knows. Canna-Lock is a patented charcoal-activated bag that discreetly stores your marijuana. Canna-Lock is made from the same material as military chemical warfare suits. Get yours at Canna-Lock.com. Visit Canna-Lock.com to learn more about no-smell technology.
Introducing Sacred Elements, a place for natural and alternative healing for the mind, body, and soul. Sacred Elements. It's one place, all solutions.
Registered, licensed, certified, ordained.
Sacred Elements.
Massage, hypnosis, Reiki.
Sacred Elements.
Raindrop, aroma and color therapy, body detox, ministry, life coaching, weight and nutrition counseling.
Sacred Elements. Next to the Sweet Leaf, 400 South Dorr Highway, Flint.
11 to 7 daily, closed Sunday.
Call 810-259-2570. It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
Radio show.
Don't throw stones at me. Don't tell anyone.
So real quick, I wanted to just wrap up this thing about Alan Witt and the trial up there in Gaylord with Joshua Covert and all the support, the court supporters up there, all of our cannabis comrades in force supporting Mr. Witt in his effort to get a not guilty verdict out of the jury. Apparently that's not going to happen today because the jury doesn't have the question. Apparently, opening up tomorrow, the court will have closing remarks. Probably Mr. Covert gets to speak first, and then I imagine the prosecution gets the last word on closing arguments. I've got with me on the phone Mr. Jamie Lowell from the Third Coast Medical Marijuana Dispensary in Ypsilanti, 19 North Hamilton to be precise.
Yes.
Welcome to the show, Jamie.
Thank you.
So,
very nice to be here.
Yeah, it is kind of nice to be here, isn't it?
It is.
I wanted to kind of maybe you've got some perspective as to what the game plan on the trial was going to be today. Can you kind of give us what the plan was about what was going on with this trial? Because I can't seem to raise anybody up there in Gaylord, and I know the trial went late, and they're going to come back in the morning with closing remarks, and then I'm sure the jury gets to go off and mull it over. I thought the jury already had it earlier today. I didn't know that they hadn't finished the trial. But give us the rundown of what you know, Jamie. Give us an insight, and then we'll move on, because I got some stuff I want to talk about with Donald Trump and pot.
Okay. Well, basically they were left with, really trying to get the jury just to not want to make a big deal about such a minor incident. And what's really unique about this case is that those guys up there, Chad Morrow and Al Witt, and a lot of people in Ben Horner's helped them out with various things from time to time. There's a lot of good activists up there. And they spent a lot of time educating the community about jury nullification. We were hanging out at the county fair last summer talking about it with people. Like everybody from around there goes to that thing. They did a local ballot initiative, and they went door to door and got signatures. They talked to people about it. They put in the paper articles about jury nullification.
I saw that. I
took out ad space.
I forgot about that.
Yep. And they put on the door. There were signs. I was there yesterday. I was not there today. I do know that what you described is generally correct. So they're left with a game plan where Josh is basically just going to try to sow the seeds about how insignificant this is, and the fact that somebody is actually on trial with felonies over a couple of grams and a brownie, with somebody who is actually saying that they were a patient in need of some medicine.
Well, here's how I'm having a hard time figuring out how the prosecution expects to distinguish the fact that this is just a plain old pot crime. Pay no attention. There is medical what? That's how the prosecution wants to paint this. But the problem is that how can the prosecution do that when the entire case hinges upon a transaction that took place inside a dispensary, for crying out loud?
I know, and they've had dispensaries up there for 3 or 4 years. They just recently codified in local law the ability to have dispensaries to make those transactions.
Exactly.
And And that's on people's mind, too, because press was made about that as well. A lot of people from the community were at those meetings.
See, I could see how they could get away with this if maybe you were meeting a would-be caregiver or somebody like this, and, it's still kind of a behind-the-dumpster kind of deal. I could see how the prosecutor could get around the whole question about medical marijuana because, it was the location of the transaction in question, because it's all about that transaction and nothing else. Without that transaction, there are no raids, there are no plants, there is no grow. What felony? So I'm just saying it all arises from that, and none of the other evidence is admissible unless and until you include this bit about the transaction and the undercover informant. Now, I just want to know how the prosecutor expects that medical marijuana is not going to pop into a jury's mind when you start talking about the location of this transaction. It must be known.
Right, and I'm sure Josh may ask a question, something akin to, I'm not going to speak for Josh or pretend that I could run this or anything like that, but I did have a discussion with him, and I know that things such as, hello officer, have you read the Medical Marijuana Act, or do you understand it well enough to have distinguished between the behavior that my client was arrested for and what's protected and able to be defended under the Act? So you say it that way, and the judge might shut it down, but that's now been said, and that was legitimate.
Well, I suppose so, but couldn't the prosecutor then use that as grounds to request a new trial? Because the jury's been tainted by information they shouldn't have. They're going to be biased now. They can't make an unbiased
I don't think
decision.
So. I doubt it. I mean, that'd be up to the judge, I'm guessing, but I doubt it because I know that Michael Camorran was in a case in Livingston County, and it got said several times, and every time the judge would shut down the proceedings, he'd send some people to jail for contempt. Sometimes it happened 2 or 3 times, including the defendant's mother. But seriously. This is what they did. They said, you can't say anything about medical marijuana or we're shutting everything down. You're going to jail. And then they asked her on the stand, the prosecutor, what does your son use for medicine? And she said, do you really want me to answer that? And they said, yes, it's medical marijuana. Everybody shut down and sent her to jail and everything and had to pay a fine to get out. But Michael ended up winning that case. The jury found his defendant not guilty because they picked up on the fact that that's what it was about.
Well, because they figured out at trial that, hey, you're trying to hide this from us.
Right, and the judge didn't. I'm saying that there was no new trial in that case, and that was said a few times, and even had big dramatic scenes made out of it. So I don't think. I mean, if that's any indication, anyway, I don't know.
I'll bet you that pissed off the Livingston County prosecutor over there. Those guys are half a heartbeat away from Oakland County. They don't mess around out there.
Right. They seem to be taking lessons from the same source or something like that.
Joe Arpaio. That's who they're getting lessons from.
So the other thing that's probably going to go on, and some people are saying this trial might last a little bit. So you heard that they might be deliberating tomorrow. I've heard that they might. Might go on a couple days.
I got the text that said they start with opening arguments tomorrow morning. Closing arguments. Closing arguments tomorrow morning. So that means that all regular testimony is ended.
Cool. Okay, I've got a couple more things to say about it, and that is, I know that it started off with a pool of about 60 people, and it took a lot of the day to get to the 12th. So I know that they must have run through the witnesses pretty quick. And in my discussion with Josh, I got the feeling that he was not going to take a lot of time with witnesses. He wasn't going to run them, ragged through a bunch of questions and things like that. But he, a couple of pointed things, again, to make sure the jury had this perspective. Like, for example, again, I don't know exactly what he asked, but something similar to, so was anybody hurt? Did anybody have to get taken off by ambulance? Was anybody bleeding? Was there, an emergency, a life or death situation happening at any point? That type of stuff. And obviously that never was the case, and you have to answer that. And it helps to provide the, the framework for what really went on here. Is this really worthy of all this shit? I think the jury picks up on that. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So there was a news story I saw recently on the Fox 2. Are you familiar with the Fox 2?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Fox 2 downtown in Detroit. So there's a news story on there that said man killed in fatal single car crash while watching porn. So
I did see that, and I immediately felt really lucky.
leave that just right where it lays. I'm not going to touch it with a 10-foot. Never mind. So, my point was that I brought that up because I posted that story, and then I said cannabis safer than porn. And this is what it comes down to when you're talking about this thing at trial too. What are we kicking around here? I mean, what are we making hay about here? What are we about to convict a man of felonies over? And what's the punishment attached to that? And how big is this crime actually? This is what people have to really start to mull around. Do we have the
right.
See, here's what I say. Every single time, there's always somebody in government that wants to before they start, start taking on new, what they call mandates in government, new spending mandates. Before any new spending happens, we want to know how you're going to pay for it, right? There's always some guy that's got to say, wait a minute, how are we going to pay for that program? Everybody likes the program. How are we paying for it? There's always that guy. Yeah, that's part of the government. But this never happens with courts. See, the prosecutor's busy ramming through as many, conviction cases he can get with as much time as he can get on them. And there's nobody on the other end there, especially at the conviction end, saying, hey, wait a minute, what are we about to do and how much is it going to cost us to do this? If we ever do a revamp of the justice system here in this country, I think that's an important component that needs to be addressed. Hey, as jurists, we not only get to decide if somebody's guilty, but how much and to what extent the taxpayer's on the hook for it. You see? In other words,
I agree.
I think a lot of juries may say, yeah, this guy's guilty as sin. He did whatever. But, we're going to convict him of something less, or we're going to find him not guilty because we see him running around on the streets as a lesser taxation on society than what it will cost us to jail him for all that time that you want to put him away for. I don't know. It's not going to work in the situations involving murder and violent crime. Those people are always going to be like an open checkbook to the prison system. But when you're talking about low-level possession crimes of any kind of drug, as far as I'm concerned, this is crap that doesn't need to be, I don't know. Put
it into perspective. Yeah,
taxation on people is just ridiculous. At some point, somebody's got to rein it in. Anyway.
So the end take on this particular case is that, chances are still not really good that there'll be a proper, full-on jury nullification and that it worked out. I don't see that as being something to count on, let's say.
Well, I would never count on it.
Right, but you're talking about any case that has a higher probability than most others to kind of get that consideration. This has to be it. You have the lawyer who totally knows how to push things in that direction, and you have a group of activists up there who have been generally educating the public about jury nullification for a while now.
Without question, and you know what? I hope it pays off in the long run. People, as we're really low information as citizens, as civilians, when it comes to our duties as citizens in participating in the government process, because the government's been very effective at disenfranchising us as citizens. Hey, don't pay attention to the grinding ons of government. You've got more important and much less boring stuff to look at back at home. Let us take care of that over here while you're not looking.
Wag the dog. Yeah.
Exactly. And then pretty soon you've got this machine that's busy staring down your gullet, and you're like, whoa, where did this come from? Well, it came from your inactivity, and government is where it came from. None of that machine would have been allowed to be built if you were busy paying attention to the mechanisms that constructed it. So anyway.
Hey, by the way, Blue Water had a hearing today. They've had a 3 and 4 year ongoing saga from the time they were raided, and many things have gone on, including them suing the Attorney General and all types of things. But they had a hearing on entrapment today.
How did that work out?
What they're doing is pretty big, too. I'm going to get word on that soon. I was hoping that I might have it by the time I was talking to you, but it didn't come through. I heard that it was very interesting, was so far the words I've had to describe it, so I'm waiting to get details.
Well, that's, what's that, the original 5-Star Meds, is that what that's all about up there?
No, this Blue Water.
Blue Water, that's right.
They had 3 places, yeah.
Blue Water, I'm sorry. Yeah. And this goes back quite some time, doesn't it? This goes back several years, as I recall. You just said.
Yeah, it does, and they've been fighting as hard as they can, as much as they can, under the circumstances. In between for other things, Jim has had some legal entanglements and have been out of the picture for a little bit. It's come back strong. It's a strong family. They lost their oldest son.
Good Lord.
You know, and they've been through a lot. They're still standing up for stuff. It's really quite incredible.
Well, I think it's incredible.
Gaylord is incredible too.
I think it's incredible that Mr. Witt, and this is what I think many people, I think, are gathering around for, because there aren't many people who have the fortitude to fight government in this way under the threats that are being lobbied in his direction. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people that have been through these same hoops that Mr. Witt's going through right now, but many of them chose to get off that path early while it was safe. They didn't want to take the path all the way to the end to see if they couldn't manage to beat it because they didn't like the odds. And some other people that have gone to the end of that path didn't suffer good odds. They suffered bad odds. So it takes a lot of guts to get up and stand up for yourself at trial, and not many people actually do. Judges and defense attorneys often don't let clients ever speak anything. I think it's refreshing when somebody gets to stand up for themselves and take the consequences for having done so, because you really never get the full effect of the law unless you defend yourself.
Well, let me put it into perspective. In this particular case, everybody else who was facing something similar as Al, and there's no judgment on them whatsoever. I mean, they did what they needed to do, and that's fine. They had the same original charges, and they got them changed to, I believe it was, from the 2 felonies and a misdemeanor to a misdemeanor and 6 months probation. That was their deal, and I believe Al was offered that too. That would have been pretty simple to take.
You see, this is kind of the disparity, part of what's wrong with our criminal justice system. This tells the tale right there. Look, if police and prosecutors were all up in arms about, hey, we got to have tough crime laws and tough tools to make convictions, and then they turn around and trade off those tools for something that means these people get to walk around free as a bird and piss in a cup every couple of days.
Pay fines.
And give us lots of money for having run them through the system, that's okay. This tells the story that this is not a public safety issue. This has always been about money and control of people. Mm-hmm. I mean, it tells it right. It's hidden right in the title of the book. If you just look into it a little bit, drives me absolutely insane.
I can't imagine this judge actually coming up with any kind of significant penalty at the end of a guilty verdict by the jury. Well, that would just be so unconscionable, at this point.
It seems that one of our friends was kicked out of the court today also. And I can't make heads or tails out of the details of that. It seems like one of our cannabis reporting friends was kicked out of the court with the rest of the media got to stay. He got lobbed out. And
he says that he didn't check off an appropriate box on the application. I don't have more detail than that. There could be more to it. I have no idea. But here's
the problem with that, though. If you didn't check the appropriate box, then the judge shouldn't have granted the motion request for permission to go in there with electronic equipment. I mean, that's what it comes down to. This is a judge's error. It's not the error of this individual reporter, if that's what it is. And I'd like to find out what it is. Jamie, we're going off to break for a second. Do you want to stick around for a minute, or?
I will if you want me to, because there's some cool stuff about this that still should be told.
Yeah, let's talk more about it. We'll come back. Our guest on the phone right now is Mr. Jamie Lowell, and we're talking about Alan Witt up in the Gaylord area in trial.
You're getting the full melt.
What's up with these things, Victor?
We decided to give ourselves stickers for each feature we release.
We read about 10,000 suggestions a week to create features that, as traders, we'd want to use.
10,000 suggestions? Who reads all of those?
He does.
For all the confidence you need, TD Ameritrade, you got this.
At book club, they were asking me what you're doing now, Janice.
Blogging. Your blog is just pictures of you in a mirror.
It's called a fashion blog, Todd. Well, I've been helping people save money with Progressive's discounts. Flo, can you get Janice a job?
You should have stuck to softball. I was so much better at softball than Janice did.
Where's your wife, Todd?
Vacation.
Discounts like homeowners, multi-policy. I got a discount on this ham.
I've got the meat sweats. It's good ham, Diane.
Paperless discounts. Give it a rest, Flo.
Yeah, Flo, give it a rest.
We ask people to tell us something that happened in their past and something that might happen in their future. The good things were put on yellow magnets and the bad ones on blue. The results show the past was a pretty even mix of good and bad, yet the future was almost all good things. Now that you've seen the results of this experiment, what does it mean to you?
We all want to think about positive stuff.
Realistically, there will be downtimes.
It's great to think optimistically, but let's plan for whatever the future might bring.
Prudential, bring your challenges.
If you're like us, your pets aren't just animals. They're members of your family. Pet Pain CBD hemp oil drops are great for aging as well as active dogs and cats. Some people are apprehensive about hemp treatments for pets. They ask us, what are you smoking? Absolutely nothing, and neither will your pet. Like other hemp-based products for humans, the allure is all of the benefits of cannabis without any of the high. The CBD oil has shown to rejuvenate the bones, joints, brain, stomach, eyes, and heart. And the drops contain absolutely no corn, wheat, soy, artificial colors and flavors, or preservatives. Pick some up today. Visit petpain.com or ask for Pet Pain at your local pet store. Petpain.com. CBD relief for your pets.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show. All right, you can get us here Monday through Friday from 7 until 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. We're at Daylight Savings Time right now. All the kiddies going off to school. Kind of cold out there. Also, if you want to find us on thefullmelt.com, up there at the top of the page, you can subscribe to us at iTunes. We've got a couple of recent publications in the Google Play Store and also in the Apple App Store. You can get our customized app and download it on your mobile device and have us in your pocket all the time. Really easy to do that. Jamie Lowell's with us on the phone, talking today about, let's wrap this story up about, what were you saying, Jamie, about more to talk about? Were you referring to this Blue Water issue or the Gaylord issue? More stuff.
It's Gaylord, and I'm not sure how far you got with Josh yesterday, but there's two, I think, interesting and or kind of important things, at least from a community perspective.
About Section 8? About Section 8?
No, I mean, I'd be happy to answer that about what happened there with Section 8 if that needs to be discussed. But the things that I really want to make sure that people know is that, first of all, the proceedings were really different as far as the judge is concerned in this case. When he came into the courtroom, he did not go take his seat immediately. He walked up to the podium and addressed the people in attendance. And he asked everybody by raising their hands basically what their opinions were about what some of the things that were going to be discussed.
Whoa!
And, of course, it was interesting. And everybody was in support of Al. And he said, okay, now I know where you guys are. I know what you think and feel about this case. So we don't need to hear it throughout the case and without any disruptions or anything. That I totally understand, and I appreciate that you're here in support of them. And that was really weird. The other thing about I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to interject that is very strange in the first place. I don't see that
it means that we've already made a difference. It means that there's already been a valuable effect.
No, it does. But I'm saying from the standpoint of its odd nature in a courtroom environment, nobody has. I've never once seen the judge poll the attendance of a courtroom. Now, absent something like, and I don't even think they had the time to do it with, the O.J. Simpson trial or any of these, sensational trials. There's no real reason for the judge to do that. All the judge needs to do is admonish the courtroom observers of the rules of the court, which mean no outbursts or I'll send you out in cuffs. That's how it goes. I'll either eject you from the courtroom, or if you've done something to disrupt the actual trial that threatens the trial, I'm going to find you in contempt and put you in jail. You better have brought a toothbrush. So for him to actually, it kind of shows a bias of the court to some degree to actually take a courtroom census or temperature of the people who were in attendance, because they should mean nothing to the judge other than a potential threat to the trial.
Well, it resulted in a long way of saying that if you're disruptive during the hearings, I'm not going to allow anybody come in here and watch the trial. It was still unique and maybe had an air of progression attached to it, but that's really what his point was. I now know what you guys stand for, and I appreciate it, and you've made it clear to me. Now we don't need to hear about it during the proceedings.
You know what would have been amazing is if nobody had responded to the judge. If the judge says, hey, you know, are you here in support of him or not? By show of hands, who's here to support the defendant? I would have wanted all people to keep their hands down. We're not here to be interviewed by the judge. We're here to observe the proceedings of the court. Now on with the show. It bothers me to some degree that the judge felt it necessary to take the temperature of the courtroom observers. They should mean nothing to him. What should mean everything to him is the temperature of that jury and the things being said in court that he's supposed to be the moderator of. And that's really all the judge does is moderate the law.
Yeah. Well, there's a woman who came in from Kansas who's a well-known attorney involved with Shona Bandis case right now, and has done a lot of other major work, and she had never heard or seen anything like that before either, and made mention of it.
Now, you said there was a second... I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt.
Yes, no, that's it, and I can segue that into it. She mentioned it at this gathering, and in Gaylord, in addition to these court proceedings, Al and Ed Morrow, Cloud 45, and Ben Horner, and some others put together a formal meeting. And it was based around letting people going on with various things and that type of stuff. But it really was one of the most unified gatherings of people standing together for something, who obviously have had lots of differences and have not been able to work together in the past or come together too much. And it was really notable, and it was overwhelming. And I was honored to be on the panel of people who got to address the crowd. There were probably 100 people, standing room only in this place.
I saw a photograph of the assembled panel and the group of people before it, and you know, for a little tiny dinky town like Gaylord, that thing was as big as a Walmart. I mean, really, when you start talking about population and the number of people attending a little event like this, like for example, you could hold the same kind of a speaking event at a place where people could come for free and check out the speakers and listen to what's going on, and you might get 10 or 12 people show up if you're lucky. In a smaller town like this, on any given night, here you got
people came together in support of Al to get started with, but then there was that allure of coming together as a community and feeling okay about it because everybody agreed that this was bullshit. What's going on?
Right, brotherhood. We came down to stand on common ground together despite differences is what it comes down to.
Right.
And that's refreshing to have happen. What's amazing is that the common ground we all have to stand on is bigger than the ground that it's not common. So I don't know why everybody wants to stand on the little piece of ground. I'd stand on the big piece of ground where everybody else is standing. That's where I'd rather be. Anyway, I wanted to bring up a couple of quick things and bounce these ideas off of you. First off, Snyder. It seems that I don't know, when things like this happen with a major politician, especially a local major politician, my ears tend to perk up because, you know, first off, this is an election year. It's a presidential election year, and all those gears are grinding, all those talking heads are talking, and they're doing it 24/7. It's not just during the evening news like it used to be 10, 15, 20 years ago. It's grinding round the clock. And this is all they got to talk about. And they've been surrounding Trump because Trump gives them the most to talk about. But injected into this entire national conversation comes, and this was on the debate stage the other night, or just last night on the CNN debate stage, and I think it might have been mentioned a couple of other places in prominence, as the Sunday morning talks have been, the evening news has been all about this issue about the failure of the Michigan governor, with Governor Snyder having control over the city and then changing the water supply and poisoning half the population, knowing it, for letting it go on for a couple of years. When this kind of thing happens, there's too much at play, I contend, to not let this affect the national party and the politics to underlie your own position. And so I've taken the position out on a limb because nobody agrees with me. Oh, the governor's never going to pay for this. Because everybody's like, hang him. There, shares out there like tar and feather them. He needs to be hung. Then people started calling for him to step down, and I'm like, look, this guy's he's gonna pay for this. And everybody and their brother posted back. There wasn't one person that agreed with me on that Facebook post that said, you know what, Green, you're right. He is going to pay for this. I'm doubling down on that. It's still people, I think, don't think that Snyder's ever going to have any repercussions from this action or this inaction or action and inaction. I disagree. I think that, and I'll make this prediction in front of your ears so you can hear the witness. I think you're going to hear in the next 30 days the governor resign. I think you're going to hear him step down, and I think it's going to surprise a lot of people. The Washington Post today just they're making him a poster child for the Republican Party. You can't let this happen during a presidential election year and not expect this to affect all the big money donors and all the people who have inward channels to somebody like Snyder. Snyder was himself considering a presidential run before the gamut of Republicans vying for that seat got to be too large, and he wasn't a big enough weed to stand out in amongst the rest of the weeds. I say at this time with the Washington Post reporting the Flint disaster is Rick Snyder's fault. A failure of the Michigan Republicans' governing ideology. This is a huge problem for the Republicans at large in a national election year. I don't see how he can sustain any further political banter on this subject in this cycle. If this had happened last year or maybe the year before that, he might have survived it. I don't think he's got a chance at this point. And that puts us on point with paying attention to what happens with Mr. Brian Kalin, doesn't it, Jamie?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's I'll tell you this, man. As far as Governor Snyder resigning, that would be appropriate. Now, I'm not as convinced that he's actually going to, but at this point, it wouldn't surprise me. Things keep getting worse. Things become more clear, and it points to him. I was just in one of Rick's articles that he submitted to High Times. He was asked by High Times to talk about how the water might affect growing and things like that.
Right.
And but I think I agree, as do many others, that Governor Snyder ran on this platform of running Michigan like a corporation, and he's all excited about balancing the budget while schools are falling apart and infrastructure is poisoning people in cities and stuff like that. But major catastrophe takes place. And if he were the CEO of the corporation where a disaster unfolds, you step down. And this is by his own philosophy and his own platform.
No,
it should be pretty simple for him.
I agree, and I have a feeling that you're going to see him fall on his own sword here, and then I'll give him 30 more days. I don't see how it could go beyond that. There's too much additional heat to come out of this. It'll be a much smaller topic news-wise if the governor steps down and gets the limelight off the Republican Party, and now he can be a private citizen and go through whatever
blame
legal
whoever he wants. Yeah.
Exactly, because now he's out of the limelight. He's already removed himself from that position of power. As long as he's in power and that limelight's on him and it's negative, there's no way the people that control the Republican Party, and I'm talking about big business and big, all these super PACs and all that money coming from the big rich donors, there's no way they'll let that to continue. Go ahead.
I agree. So to continue the answer, it is whether or not he actually steps down or he actually gets an obvious personal consequence.
Right.
What he did does have an effect for sure, party-wide and philosophy-wise. I hope more people understand that businesses are governed by government.
Right.
Running government like a business results in some bad things, and we're experiencing that right now.
Jamie, we're up against the clock here on the commercial break. Going to come back and segue to Trump next. Trump chosen with Bo Arpaio.
You're getting the full melt.
Promotional consideration provided by NoSmell.com, pioneering the storage market for cannabis users. The No-Smell patented bag technology offers users 100% smell-proof detection from even the most sophisticated of noses. NoSmell.com, so nobody knows. When placing your order for a No-Smell bag, make sure to use discount code FULLMELT and take 10% off the entire order. Learn more about No-Smell technology at NoSmell.com.
Young students are our future. They're eager to learn, eager to succeed, eager to make the world a better place. And they want to make it to school safely. Share the road, take care when passing, and always leave 3 feet between you and people on bikes. Bikes are legal road vehicles. We're all drivers.
When you need legal help, you don't want to guess at who's standing next to you in court. And when it comes to a medical marijuana defense, it's even smarter to partner with a lawyer before you need one. Based in Royal Oak, David Rudoy has a proven history of not being afraid to take your case all the way to the Supreme Court and win. Find the law offices of Rudoy Law
at RudoyLaw.com.
RudoyLaw.com is a quick reference on your rights concerning Michigan medical marijuana
and up-to-date news.
That's RUDOI Law.com. Call 248-935-9074 now and talk about your legal needs, because at RudoyLaw.com, we don't just stand up for you, we stand up with you.
If you're like us, your pets aren't just animals. They're members of your family. Pet Pain CBD hemp oil drops are great for aging as well as active dogs and cats. Some people are apprehensive about hemp treatments for pets. They ask us, what are you smoking? Absolutely nothing, and neither will your pet. Like other hemp-based products for humans, the allure is all of the benefits of cannabis without any of the high. The CBD oil has shown to rejuvenate the bones, joints, brain, stomach, eyes, and heart. And the drops contain absolutely no corn, wheat, soy, artificial colors and flavors, or preservatives. Pick some up today. Visit petpain.com or ask for Pet Pain at your local pet store. Petpain.com. CBD relief for your pets.
Hey, it's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience, bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Door Highway, or call 810-259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571. It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
What are you going to do for legalizing marijuana if people are willing to follow all of the rules 100% legally, federally? And
the marijuana thing is such a big thing. I think medical should happen, right? Don't we agree? I mean, I think so. And then I really believe you should leave it up to the states. It should be a state situation. Because, you know, you have, like, I just left Colorado, and I love Colorado, and the people are great. But there's a question as to how it's all working out there. You know, that's not going exactly trouble-free. So I really think that we should study Colorado, see what's happening. But I believe that the legalization of marijuana, other than for medical, because I think medical, you know, I know people that are very, very sick, and for whatever reason, the marijuana really helps them. But it really helps them. But I think in terms of marijuana, and legalization, I think that should be a state issue, state by state.
Okay, so wait a minute. Just let me just get this clear now. Let's just be clear about this, Mr. Trump, because, you know, if you Google him about this issue, if you Google about Trump and cannabis, the question itself, you know, here's the headline back in June of last year. Trump says that medical marijuana is okay, but that pot's a bad thing. I don't like pot. I don't think we should legalize pot. And then you see in August, you see him start to talk more about it in a neutral way, right? He doesn't talk about it too much, but when he does talk about it, he dances around the neutrality of the subject rather than taking a position one way or the other. And now, that was in October, you saw him talking about, and this wasn't part of any big broadcast or anything. This was out on the stump, right? That was a question from an audience member out on the stump about Donald Trump and pot. And I just want to point out the idea that on this subject, Trump has flip-flopped a couple of times. Now, I don't think that, Donald Trump is a pothead. I don't. Do I think Donald Trump has used pot before? Absolutely. I think Donald Trump has probably used pot many times before. It would not surprise me at all to find some admission from him that he's used pot, in the past few years. It wouldn't surprise me at all. But the idea that he might take a negative position once to cuddle up to the Republican Party, and then once he feels he's got the Republican Party by the short hairs, you know what? I can say I can stand up and shoot somebody in the hallway and I won't lose any voters. When he gets to the stage where he thinks like that, now it's all opinion out the window because I am omnipotent. Nothing can take me off from my throne. And you're going to see, I think, some more back and forth waffling, I should say, from Donald Trump on this subject. I just saw him standing on the stage that he's made the same announcement. If you didn't hear the announcement yet tonight, it's pretty fresh, breaking news. Donald Trump has said because of his argument with Fox News, he doesn't like that female reporter. He talked about having blood in her eyes and blood coming out of her wherever. He didn't like Megan Fox, or what is her name? He doesn't like Megan. Well, he didn't like her at all. And she might, Fox is like, hey, she's one of our people. You got to be nice to her. I don't have to be nice to nobody. If she's going to start saying a bunch of crap about, I'll say what I want. So pretty much Fox, he told after, and then there was something else that happened. Something about when Fox started to put together promotional material surrounding this coming Thursday's debate on their air. Something says, one of their producers made some smarmy comment about Donald Trump, and it blew his top. And he just held a press conference, which immediately preceded this broadcast, which started at 7 p.m. Eastern. So Eastern time, I think he's out in Iowa, which is going to put him in Mountain Time. So this is about 5 o'clock today. He made the announcement at the close of business that he's got almost no chance of appearing on Fox News' Republican debate. How you like them apples, Fox News? You don't have the big kahuna. Nobody's going to tune into your stupid debate without the old Donald around. You ain't got the old Donald Trump to kick around anymore, in the old words of the late, not-so-great Richard Nixon, who I think started the marijuana war in modern days' eyes anyway. He's certainly the one responsible for getting it scheduled as the worst of the worst. He's standing on this very stage that he made this announcement, late breaking today, that he's not going to be on the Fox News debate with whom else but Arizona's own finest, Joe Arpaio. Now, if you don't know who Joe Arpaio is, he's notable for being the sheriff of Maricopa County. Now, where is Maricopa County out there in Arizona? Well, it's the seat of where Phoenix sits, if you really want to know. That's the county in which Phoenix, Arizona resides. And so, being the Maricopa County sheriff and elected and reelected and reelected and reelected and reelected, Joe Arpaio is famous for his tough on crime stance. And you know what that means? That means we're not going to provide you with a standard jail cell. No, if we got an overflow crowd, we're not building more jails. We're going to put you outside in the desert under a tent. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. And you'll be responsible for going out into the fields and raising some oranges and some other food that we grow for the prison population. And you know what? We're going to feed you discolored bologna that's gone green or brown or some other horrid color because, we can do that. I don't know if it's an indication that it's bad or that it's about to go bad, or I had no idea why you got to have discolored bologna sandwiches, but Joe Arpaio's feeding them to the prison population. It's really the local county jail population because he's got no control over a prison, thank goodness. But he's out there sweating out those people, those prisoners, and most of them, guess what they're there for? That's right, they're there for low-level drug offenses. No violence here, ladies and gentlemen. We just need to bring you in and recognize you as a bad individual, wrap you up with a felony conviction, make you stay here in jail, and guess what? There's no room for you out here in jail, so you're going to have to stay out there in that tent in the desert heat, or cold, as the case may be. So you got Sheriff Joe Arpaio. He's like the Rick Jones, and Rick Jones is a former sheriff of Eaton County here in Michigan. He's like the Rick Jones of, except, Joe Arpaio is popular, gets reelected. Rick Jones isn't popular as sheriff anymore. He had to run for state seat. Let's see what Mr. Arpaio does later. My point being with Trump is that if you've got this guy that's making a living off of putting pot people in jail and treating them horribly, incidentally, what do you think why do you think Mr. Trump might be standing on that stage with Joe Arpaio? Why would he give that microphone to Mr. Joe Arpaio? I just want to know. I'll leave the answer to that question up to you. Look, if you're Bernie Sanders, I don't see you letting Joe Arpaio take your mic up off on the stage. I don't see it happening. Then again, Mr. Trump just did make special arrangements for Sarah Palin to come out and speak on his behalf as endorsing him. That didn't work out too well for Mr. Trump. Oh, if there ever was a rambling bowl of alphabet soup coming out like verbal diarrhea, it came from the likes of Sarah Palin. We are out of time for the show today. Join us tomorrow when we'll take you down another fascinating tour of cannabis news, activism, lifestyle, and entertainment right here at thefullmelt.com. Until then, I'm Steve Green. Thank you for joining me today on The Full Melt Show. We'll see you tomorrow.
The Full Melt Show is a production of TFM Media.